Good afternoon. My name is Jason Brown. A lot of people call my story the curious case of Jason Brown because they ask, why on God's green earth would this young man at the peak of his career in the NFL, making millions of dollars, walk away towards a lifestyle that's much more humbling, a lifestyle that's filled with even more hard work, where there's no fortune and no fame? Well, of course, there's a little bit of context to the story. And so I have to take you on a little bit of a journey. So as a kid, I always wanted to pursue my dream. And that was our family dream, to take over the family business. And that was landscaping. So every summer, I would go out with my father, my older brother, and we would find the homes that had the least amount of curb appeal. Grass all the way up to your knees, weeds everywhere. It looked like a complete and utter nightmare. But yet, it wouldn't take long at all. But when that homeowner left home in the morning, that's when we got to work. And when they got back a little bit after 5 in the evening, and they saw the miraculous transformation that we did to their home, they had the biggest smile on their faces. It's as though we had completely changed their lives. And at a young age, I started to learn that, acts of service, the service industry, giving back and helping to change people's lives for the better, that was something that sowed a seed in my heart, something that I knew that I wanted to do much later on in my life. But now, of course, getting into middle school and high school, I traded in the childhood dream for the American dream. Now, I know some of you might have, done that before. I'm not sure if anyone's seen the movie, Mr. Deeds. It's a common cliche of being in your youth and saying, hey, I know exactly what I want to do when I grew up. I want to be a veterinarian and just, help save animals. I want to go, play with the dolphins and the whales. And just, it wasn't about money. But somehow, yes, in my head, that dream changed. And then came along football. Now, that was a complete and utter difference in lifestyle. The goals of which I had in my youth of giving and serving, a lot of what I was doing playing football, it was very much so self-serving. And when I reached the peak of my career, one of the things that gave me pause was I also looked back to one of my family members, my very own brother, Lunsford Bernard Brown II. He was the most awesome big brother in the world. I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Unbroken, and my brother was just like that brother, all right? Always giving me words of wisdom, always telling me that you're going to be successful, always giving me just everything that I needed, and even telling me that I'm going to be even more successful than he was in life. And he was 7 years older than me. And in the middle of my my college career at the University of North Carolina, we received a dreadful phone call that he had been slain in Afghanistan. I was 20 years old at the time, and he was 27. And that completely shook my world, guys. Now, one of the simple facts in life is that the older we get, we're all going to lose loved ones sometime along our journey. And the best thing that I thought that I could do at the time in order to serve his memory was to continue to be the best person that I could be. I knew that he was a big fan of me with football. So I said, I'm going to be the best football player that I can possibly be. And over the next several years, that's exactly what I did, guys. I dominated in the sport of football. I was drafted in the 4th round by the Baltimore Ravens in 2005, served 4 years there, then went on to sign a lucrative free agent contract with the St. Louis Rams. It was a record-breaking deal for an offensive lineman. Now, 7 years later, I was at the peak of my game, making multi-million dollars. There was really no place else for me to go. I couldn't go any further. But yet, here came the tragedy. I turned 27 years old. And as soon as I turned 27 years old, it's like a light bulb went off in my head, and also something started to stir in my heart, because I looked back and I recognized that was the same age that my brother was when he passed. And one of the things that I did was I began to measure up my life along with his. Now, in the short 27 years that he was blessed to walk this earth, he lived a life of service. He gave his life in service to our country. No greater deed a man can do than to lay his life down for his friends. Dr. Martin Luther King also stated that anyone can be great because any one of us can serve. So, of course, I'm looking at all of my accomplishments. And guess what, guys? There was no comparison. It didn't stack up, not the slightest bit. Now, I wear a size 16 shoe. And my older brother at the time, he wore a size 14. But the shoes that he left behind and the legacy that he left behind for me to feel, I couldn't feel those shoes. And so there became another burning desire in my heart to move back closer towards service. Now, the opportunity came when I was benched by the St. Louis Rams, and then later cut by the St. Louis Rams in early 2012. And instead of looking at that event as a tragedy, I looked at it as an opportunity. And I said, you know what? Maybe I can start pursuing that life of service. And then came the hard part, the temptation. My agent immediately called me up and he said, Jason, you just got cut, just got released. No worries. I've got 3 teams on the phone right now. They want to sign you to a long-term deal. You can transition your family, get back to making multi-million dollars. Now, the same person, the person that, yes, that is pursuing that, what we call American dream, we would jump right on it, right, guys? But then it would be in conflict with what was going on in my heart. It would be in conflict with what I saw in the mirror every single day. And I asked myself the question, Jason, besides making all of this money, fortune, and fame, what are you doing with your life that's so great? Now, the temptation was extremely hard because those 3 teams were the Carolina Panthers. I'm a Carolina boy, born and bred, guys. The Baltimore Ravens, which meant I could have gone back and finished my career as a Raven. And the third team was the San Francisco 49ers. Now, nobody knew at the time that when I was up for free agency, if there were 3 teams that I could have picked more so than anything else, it would have been those 3 teams. Those specific 3 teams. Tell me the odds of that. The odds have to be just like ridiculous. But now I went back and I fell on my faith. And I said, God, I know you're sharing this with me for a reason. What would you have me to do more so than anything else with my life right now? Because I don't want it to be about money anymore. I want it to be about my family and service and giving back. Now, conventional wisdom would have told me, well, guess what? If you care about, service and giving back, well, then you can continue to play, make a lot of money, and then do philanthropic work and give back monetarily wise. But do you know what God told me? I want you to walk away from football and become a farmer. I said, hold on a second. Excuse me? Like, you mean that you want me to just leave football, but then become a farmer? But I don't know a thing about farming. Exactly how am I going to get all of these things accomplished? I don't even have any land right now. And he said, don't worry, just move back to North Carolina. And then became the process of there being a leap of faith. We put our mansion in St. Louis on the market and uprooted our family, and we moved back to North Carolina. Didn't even know exactly where we were going to be living at the time. And when we moved back, of course, my wife, she's looking at me like, okay, like I don't know what, God is sharing with you, but he's not exactly sharing this with me right now. What exactly is going on? And the most humbling thing that I asked her to do was to move back in with my parents for 2 months. Okay? Yes, I've got a good woman, guys. All right? Yeah, she did that. All right? She made that sacrifice, and we made it together. But lo and behold, we had been looking for land for years. And I've been looking for land for selfish purposes, mostly for horseback riding or riding ATVs and fishing. But now I was looking for land for a purpose, to be able to go out there and actually work the land. And you know what happened? All of a sudden, there was a 1,000-acre farm that showed up out of nowhere. And literally, God gave that farm to our family. And it's all because we walked in obedience. And we named that farm First Fruits Farm, because we said that whatever we grow in that farm, we're going to give the first fruits back to the community, back to the people that are in need. And at that point in time, we didn't know exactly how much need was out there. And as I began to dig deep a little bit further, I learned that North Carolina is rampant with food deserts and food insecurity. I started doing the research on the surrounding states: Georgia, Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia. The food insecurity right here in West Virginia, 1 in 5 children don't know where their next meal is going to come from. That's a huge problem, guys. And that was a huge burden on my heart to say that, you know what? We have to do something about it. Now, the first opportunity for us to harvest food from the farm didn't come from me going out there and actually planting the food. It came from a gleaning opportunity. There was already a farmer tending the land, and he had a huge cucumber contract, 50 acres of cucumbers. And after 2013, when he was finished with his cucumber contract, after no more of the cucumbers could be harvested for profit, he went out there with his big John Deere tractors and he tilled all of the rest of the cucumbers back underneath the ground. So in 2014, I asked him, I said, have you ever allowed gleaning opportunities, for some of your crops? And he said, well, no, and I wouldn't be opposed to it neither. So then came the opportunity of us mustering up as many volunteers that we possibly could, and also with the help of the Society of St. Andrew. And over the course of 2 weeks, 50 volunteers went out there, bending over in the July hot, humid sun, but we were able to save 10,000 pounds of cucumbers. And we had only touched 2 acres of those 50 acres. So literally, there was so much more good that could have been done. There was so much more food that could have been saved, that could have gone to needy families. And for our next crop, I decided to set aside 5 acres for sweet potatoes. Now, I started doing a little bit of the research that just 1 acre of sweet potatoes could yield 20,000 pounds of harvest. So 5 acres, you're talking about 100,000 pounds. And at this time, guys, it's still just me and my family. And I'm thinking, hey, we're not going to be able to do this with just, 50 volunteers. How are we going to be able to get all of those potatoes out of the ground and to the people's hands that need them the most? And it was just like a cliche. God told me, it's just like the field of dreams. If you plant it, they will come, right? And I know we look at movies like that, and I know sometimes you say, hey, just do these things in faith. Take a leap of faith. And then other times, our worst fears come about and say, you know what? Yeah, if I extend myself out there like that, what if no one comes to help me? What if no one comes to my aid or to my support? But regardless of my biggest fears, I planted that field. And in November of 2014, we had more than 500 volunteers that showed up at the farm over the course of 2 weekends. And we were able to get every single potato out of that field. And no, it didn't yield just 100,000 pounds. We shattered the average. It yielded 120,000 pounds of sweet potatoes that were all donated back to the local food banks, food pantries, food shelters, you name it. And guys, it was literally one of the most awesome experiences that I've ever been a part of. Even throughout my entire football career, where, yes, I've played in every stadium here in the States. I've played in front of tens of thousands of fans. But seeing that many people come together to do something good, not for themselves, but for the benefit of their fellow man, I knew at that moment that I had done the right thing. And right now, guys, we're not stopping. This very next year, we're going to plant 11 acres of sweet potatoes. Our goal is to produce more than 250,000 pounds of sweet potatoes. And not only are we giving back, but it's a teaching opportunity as well. There's people from all walks of life, children, adults as myself, even senior citizens, coming out there, picking up potatoes and learning, not just learning where their food comes from, but giving a helping hand in growing that food as well. That's where the true power is. One of the revelations that God shared with me a couple of years back was that, and I hadn't shared this with anybody because I honestly thought that this was crazy, and that he shared that there was going to be a famine in the land. And I said, this is America. Like, everyone is fat, right? Like, everyone is eating healthy or eating as much as we want to eat, right? And my wife and I received confirmation. It was about a month ago, looking at the news and seeing the devastation of their ongoing 4-year droughts out there in Southern California. Most people don't know that more than 90% of some of the healthiest fruits and vegetables are grown right there in Southern California. More than 90% of all broccoli, spinach, cauliflower, almonds, celery, you name it, avocados. Yeah, so if you have a huge guacamole fetish, yeah, guys, this affects you. This affects everyone, okay? And literally, a lot of these healthy foods are going to start disappearing from our grocery store shelves. And if they are found in the grocery stores, they're going to be extremely high. So right now is a call to action for every single youth, especially the youth, to pursue agriculture, to pursue farming, because all food comes from farms. The average age of the American farmer is 59 years old. That's pushing retirement. That's pushing the age of being a senior citizen. What's the rest of the youth in the population doing? Sad to say, they're pursuing sports and some of these other things. And a lot of those things aren't going to put food on the table. Agriculture is one of the greatest investments that anyone can possibly invest in. You can take a watermelon seed the size of my pinky and produce a watermelon more than 100 pounds. If there was any investor out there that told you, hey, if you give me, such and such amount of money in 120 days, I can double your investment or quadruple it, or even by 50 or 100-fold, guess what? You better run from that guy, okay? You better run as fast as you can. But I'm here today to tell you the truth that agriculture, pursuing farming, is the greatest investment that anyone can ever partake in. You literally see the fruits of your labor. And not only that are we giving back in food, guys, but most of all, we're sharing our hearts and we're giving back in love. And I call every single one of you to pursue service, to pursue acts of kindness, no matter what the cost, even if it's a sacrifice to yourself. Because one thing that I can share with you in my experiences is that you cannot outgive, okay? The more you give, the more will come back and be given to you. One of the simple things that just gives me the most confirmation is when a person that I've never met before walks up to me and says, Jason, I know you don't know me, but we received some of the sweet potatoes from your harvest last year. And I had just been laid off by my job, and my family was going through a hard time. And that food came in right on time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And please continue to do it, because you're helping people that you don't even know. That's so awesome, guys. And that's true power. That's true love. Love is the greatest currency that we can share with one another. It's also infectious. When I smile at you, you smile back. If I were to come out there and say, hey, free hugs right now, okay, well, maybe one or two you might get a little creeped out, right? But hopefully someone will be like, yeah, let's spread the love, right? We're all in this together. And let's never forget that. Thank you, guys.
I'm so excited to talk to you about ceremony because I absolutely love it. And I use ceremony to connect to my authentic self and then to my spirit. And then when I have that in place, then I work on how to craft a life that I'm proud to live in.